welcome back. Let's continue with our breaking story. Nthutuko Shoba found guilty of premeditated murder. We're getting more reaction now on the 28-year-old Bule's murder 2 years ago. Not in my name, Secretary General Themba Masango and spokesperson for civil rights organization Action Society, Ilani van der Walt, as well as Jabu Baloyi from the Commission for Gender Equality. They all join me now virtually. Let me start with you, Mr. Baloyi. A lot of people expected that he would probably be found guilty of murder, but it's premeditated murder. So this is a step up, actually.
Yes, thank you very much, Masiko, and thank you to the viewers. The Commission welcomes this development insofar as this judgment is concerned. It will serve as a deterrent to the will-be perpetrators of gender-based violence who act do not want to see their hands dirty, but will not orchestrate such murders. Normally, we find situations whereby, in Tsoko Fatsepule's case, wherein the third person doesn't get involved and there's no evidence to pin them down on the issues of same. Gender-based violence is endemic in our country, and we thank the judge for coming to that guilty verdict. And we hope during the ending of the sentence that it will be fitting of the same offense that has been done, and we applaud them, and we thank everyone who was involved, NGOs, government, and various society, even you, the media people, for making sure that this case see the light of the day.
Ilani, I think, for me what's important also is that society actually carried this case through. You saw them outside court, the two men who were the first to discover her body, the brutal way that she was murdered, talking about how they're still traumatized to this day. But you see them actually going to court, still there supporting the family, and they're wanting to see if this man will be found guilty.
Absolutely, it was great visual seeing that, and we at Action Society are grateful for the verdict, and we're also calling, like one of the gentlemen said, for a double life sentence, because an example needs to be made of Shoba. There's a problem in our country with GBVF, and it's a huge problem, and the women and children need to be protected, and hopefully this is a step in the right direction, and that we'll see much more guilty verdicts in rape cases and obviously in femicide cases.
And of course, also, Themba, I want to go back to what Ilani was saying. I think with the double life sentences, I think people are looking at the fact that it's not one person that he's been found guilty of killing. It's two people and an innocent unborn child.
100%. And, it's not in my name. We definitely welcome the verdict. The judge was clear that Nthutuko Shoba and Muzigaise planned this, and now he's guilty of premeditated murder. And the only logical thing to happen next is to have a harsh life sentence that will be given to him, and with the hopes that this would actually deter would-be perpetrators from committing such heinous acts. And I think there should be a standard in the country that is set by the honorable courts that should one be guilty of such heinous crimes, where you're not only killing one woman but an unborn child, they should not. These issues should not even be discussed whether a life sentence should be given or not. And secondly, finally, after 2 years, the family can start the process of healing. You can imagine how it's been for the family, as you saw some of the visuals outside, how the family was really so relieved, and also just letting out the pressure that they were under. And we are really happy that we can say that we do have a court system, albeit slow. It does work, and eventually the long hand of the law does get to perpetrators. And to men, we want to say once again, there is no reason why you should kill somebody just because you've got a difference with them, or you don't want the child, or whatever the case may be. There is nothing wrong with walking away, and why should you kill somebody? It is really, really, really problematic. Our femicide rate is 5 times higher than anywhere in the world, and that almost makes the females in our country, an endangered species by men, and even men are even afraid of one another now. So really, we should be looking at programs to actually change the mindset of men and perpetrators, and more importantly, young boys.
Ilani, I want to come back to you. I think what's also very important is that although our South African police service is definitely not perfect, but in this particular case and the fight against gender-based violence, they do have something to celebrate, right? In terms of that team that investigated this case, made the arrest that they did so quickly, and made use of the technology evidence that they had to get Shoba and realize that he had two numbers, etc. It's worth celebrating, right?
No, absolutely. I absolutely agree with you. They did a brilliant job, and we are fortunate to still have very good police members in service. I think a lot of times the frustration from their side and the fact that we don't get more guilty verdicts like in this case is that they're let down by bad leadership, by the fact that they don't have resources. I mean, there's not enough people on the ground to actually fight crime. They haven't taken in new recruits for the past 2 years, and I think that's we take our hats off to the members who actually, with the little that they've got, they followed through on this case, and it's a great job, and we really hope that once again it'll be an eye-opener to SAPS and to the Minister of Police, that if they're really going to put some work into the force, that there's still good cops out there that can do the job and can get the guilty verdict and get these rapists and murderers off the streets.
Mr. Baloyi, I think what I also found interesting during the time that Judge Wilson was handing down his judgment was that, at some point the defense tried to discredit Malepane, who eventually was obviously convicted of murder. He was the one that carried it out, and he's said it to police and repeated it in court. He was a questionable witness here and there because he would lie here and there. But what I found interesting was Judge Wilson saying even a liar can sometimes tell the truth, and even a liar who has a gripe with the person they're lying about can sometimes bring justice for a family that's weeping.
I applaud the Malefana for coming for and helping the situation. And seeing that the family will find justice at the end, like Temba said very well, and rightfully so, that there will be healing. Maseko, our concern as a Commission for Gender Equality is the slow pace in which this case took place. We have seen in cases like Mvuleni Jezile in Cape Town and Oscar Pisora. Within 6 months, this case was one of those cases where we could have seen self-correction, where we could have used the 3 pieces of legislation to effect a sentence in this case. So what we're calling on, it's as much as welcome the verdict and also the witness, a star witness who came up the truth. Yes, people can lie, but at this case, I should think even like my colleagues were saying within the CGE, the spirit of Nthutuko was wanting him, for him to come with the truth, for him to repent from his wicked ways, for the loss of money and killing an innocent person in such a barbaric manner. As a Commission for Gender Equality, we're not happy with the manner in which these cases are being prolonged. Hence, people end up with wrong cases where it's cases of rape because of the continual subjugation of humiliation, secondary victimization going on. And in this case, we were hoping that, within 6 months, we'll have wrapped this case massively. And we're hoping, going forward, our justice system can correct, our judiciary can see that, gender-based violence need to be prioritized and be dealt with decisively for women, children, men, and the elderly to have this confidence within the justice system that, justice can not only be had, but to be seen to be working for everyone in the shortest space of time. And that can only be done as long as, we put pressure with not only my name, with Elena, and you, the media people, whom we're so grateful in this regard.
Temba, let me come back to your reaction to that. I mean, this is obviously true for a lot of people. They've been thinking that this case should have been sorted a long time ago. But of course, we saw some delaying tactics here and there by the defense, etc. What's your reaction to that? There's some people who say, even though he is, a convicted killer, during the time he was still accused and he had every right to use every single law avenue that was presented before him or that is there. And obviously in delaying the case, of course, but he has every right to try and explore every legal avenue.
100% he did. And I think now the right also goes onto the state to be able to say that they can use that as a mitigating factor towards sentencing, to say that instead of being an honest and clear witness and coming out and confessing to his crime, he tried to actually get out of it. So that should actually mitigate against him when we come to sentencing. That is why we cannot accept anything lesser than the harshest of sentences, which is a life sentence. And, what is more painful and hurting is that this was a murder that these two guys, Musgaise and Nthutuko, planned over, a prolonged time. And so it shows you that he's a cold-blooded murderer, and he should get the harshest of sentences. And we only hope, and as I'm agreeing with my colleague Javuti, when it comes to the point from arrest to actually shutting down the case to sentencing, we need to be able to speed up the process, especially with heinous crimes such as these of femicide and gender-based violence in our country. Because the longer it takes, you get a secondary victimization, you get intimidation of witnesses, and so on. So we need to find a way within the system to make sure that these cases get dealt with venomously and as quickly as possible, so that victims should actually get the justice they deserve. So we should not be perpetrator-centric anymore, but we should look at the victim and the justice that they deserve.
Ilani, I want to go back to the secondary victimization that Mr. Masango just told us about. I mean, that's very important, especially for the family members who had to sit throughout that trial and listen to some of what we know now were lies told by Nthutuko Shoba.
Absolutely, and it's a major thing, and especially I just want to refer, for instance, to rape cases. I mean, people who are raped who also has to sit through that trauma every time, and it just takes too long. I agree with my colleague that said the justice system needs to be victim-centered and not perpetrator-centered. We need to start pushing these cases through quicker. We need to start pushing up the prosecution rate, and there's various factors that play a role in that, from the DNA backlog to the convicted offenders bills that need to be passed, right through to prosecution and enough courtrooms to specifically deal with gender-based violence cases. And what we find is that there's a lot of talk about it, within the higher ranks, and people are talking about we're fighting the pandemic, but at the end of the day, this is one guilty verdict that could have happened much quicker. And with 150 rape cases per day and 8 women murdered per day, there's still a lot of work to be done within our justice system.
Ilani, I want to stay with you because of what you just said is quite important. Those statistics are shocking in our country. We are even, labeled one of the most violent countries in the world, especially with crimes against women and children. Today is a happy day for her family and a lot of people who are against GBV, but there's so many. She's one of those ones whose case was so brutal that she even got a mention from the president during his address to the nation, what we now call a family meeting, etc. But there's so many other families who are hoping for the same type of attention when it comes to their heartache.
Absolutely, and what's scary is that the 150 rape cases a day are only those that are reported, and according to statistics, it's only 1 in 9 of these cases that are reported, and that shows you that the victims don't have any trust in the justice system. So it's a major issue that needs to be addressed, and we can't just be accepting lip service from government regarding GBVF anymore. They need to start by making serious changes. SAPS, for instance, can't be a politically driven organization. It needs to be there to serve and protect the citizens of South Africa, and especially the vulnerable citizens like women and children. We're at a point now where we're actually launching centres with a private initiative where we are assisting rape victims or domestic violence victims to just get them through the court process. Because of the low resources within SAPS, the low knowledge skills, there's very few good trained personnel, the GBV desks that aren't operational. people get stuck at police station level and nothing ever gets done, and it doesn't go further than that. So we've actually launched a private initiative to assist people to just get the process and eventually get to court, because it just takes too long, and it's a miscarriage of justice. And you know, in our opinion, it's becoming a human rights violation what's happening in South Africa. We've got our femicide rate is equal to a country at war.
You know, Mr. Baloyi, you know, for me also the other thing that is embarrassing is my country of birth, South Africa, being described as a country where it's easy to hire somebody to murder somebody.
Masiko, you know, every single day we ask ourselves how the police can detect these guns, how the guns are being stolen so easily from the police, how securities guard police stations. You know, I was talking to the one of our legal gurus here, Dr. Nthutuko, to say it's an indictment to the police, whereby people, instead of reporting gender-based violence cases to the police first, they come to the commission that we want you to let you know that we are going to open a case. They phone us at 11 at 3 o'clock. They said it's better to report with you first before going to the police. You go to Elana's case, that people have lost confidence with the police, and they don't even see nothing, they don't see anything wrong. And the most effective and efficient police people will be demoralized at the long run, whereby criminals also are shooting them. I heard a story of somebody, a police officer was shot in Lehigh, who was working in the gender-based violence case. And I cried a bit because I knew the person. It's a gun which is illegal. The people are not arrested. So I should think the police themselves, when they shake up the police, like the president have said, the security cluster, let them get the committed police officers who will serve with passion, like what we're doing with Elana Temba and myself and other colleagues from the gender fraternity. We serve the country with passion. Can't they do the same so that, you know, women can be safe? I'm telling you, Masiko, go to city down Johannesburg. See how many court killing could happen, like it happened to your colleague the other day, Rofiwa Mazena. She just walked out for 8 minutes. She received a lot of things because we don't have respect for women. We don't have respect for ourselves as people. We need to introspect as a country. Is this the future that we want for our kids and the generation to come, where guns are just obvious? You go to a place, they said you can hire someone for 5,000 to come and kill me for speaking truth to power on gender issues, you know, threatening people who are working in this fraternity because you also are abusing people when you speak about it. It can't be. Something has to be done, and we need to make sure that, you know, we deal with that decisively.
Mr. Masango, let me just end with you. I think both Ilani as well as Mr. Baloyi said something that is very important, Temba, and it has to do with giving resources to the SAPS to be able to actually carry out their duties. So many crimes go unsolved when the evidence could have been obvious, but there are no resources to investigate as quickly as they should.
100%, and I think my colleagues have nailed it 100%. Most importantly, let's depoliticize the justice system in this country, get it away from you know, being a political tool that is being used, because on a daily basis, as we heard, 150 women are being raped a day, 8 women being murdered in a day, South Africa being known as you know, the rape capital of the world, and as the most unequal society in the world. We are a ticking time bomb on a daily basis. So we need to make sure that justice is put far away from politics as possible. We need to make sure that it is well resourced. Our police are adequately trained, are sensitive also to matters of gender-based violence and femicide. Part of the reason why people don't report cases is because they know that when they get to a police station, 9 out of 10 times they're going to meet an incompetent police person who knows nothing about gender-based violence or the incident that is facing a person. So we need to make sure that police are trained, and that is why we launched a campaign at Not In My Name called Policing the Police, and to actually make sure that every I is dotted and T's are crossed. And we'll continue with our friends and our colleagues in civil society to make sure that you know, justice is done, and not only done, but seen to be done all the time. And we need to, work closer together and move away from working, from silos, and actually get together, because this endemic and this, vile situation that we are facing is only going to get better when we, put all hands on deck. I could say, like, for example, last year the president put over $1 billion to the gender-based violence fight, but we don't know what has happened to it. We need a clear audit on what has happened to those funds, who got those funds, what happened to them, who are they assisting, because on the ground where we are, there is a lot of work to be done, and there's little to none. People are sitting in lofty offices and with aircon sitting there talking about talks of talks, while organizations, like Bowo Jabu and my colleague there are actually on the ground trying to do something, are not actually benefiting or benefiting in order to benefit the other people. So we need a clear understanding in what happens to these funds. Who are these so-called people that are out there that are supposed to be dealing with gender-based violence? Are they doing it, or are they just, using it as another cash cow, as it is in this country?
Very important questions there. Let me thank the three of you very much for spending some time with us here on All Angles to speak about this important issue. Of course, Themba Masango from Not In My Name, as well as Ilani van der Walt from Action Society, and Javu Baloyi from the Commission for Gender Equality. Thank you very much. There's breaking news, of course, having to do with Nthutuko Shoba being found guilty of premeditated murder of Tshegofatso Pule in June of 2020. Let's take you